From the KDLM studios in Detroit Lakes, it's Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy, presented by Partnership for Health and now airing on TV3.
Today in the studio, I've got a couple of guests joining me. They work with the Soil and Water Conservation District, Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. And joining me, I've got Marcia Watland, who's standing by with the Becker County Ag Inspector, and also Logan Rydell, who is a resource technician with the Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. And good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Logan is going to talk about shoreland restoration this morning. He's worked with the Becker Soil and Water Conservation District for 3 years now, and works with that portion and more, I'm sure. But one of the projects that comes to mind, Logan, that I've kind of seen the beginning of and the effects of now, all that hard work is paying off, is the scenic overlook over by Holiday Inn. And I know Becker Soil and Water Conservation District was instrumental with that. Yeah,
absolutely. We're part of that process. The reasoning behind it was significant wave action and some erosion issues coming off of what was old Highway 10 at the time. And with all the renovations and a lot of partners in hand, we were able to reestablish the area to native species, bring in some quality pollinator habitat, and really just kind of beautify the area. I mean, for a long time, it was just kind of a crummy vegetation area where it wasn't as enjoyable as it is now.
Right. And I think last year, too, you worked with Cormorant Beach out on Lake Cormorant.
Yeah. So it's Middle Cormorant Beach. That one was a doozy. There's a significant area of damage before we were able to get in there. And so we're able to balance, land use where we wanted to clean up the lake and put in a buffer with some pollinator species, but also having the beaches there for people to enjoy.
Right. So that's very cool. So you work with kind of the public and the private sector, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's a handful of organizations, county land, or private individuals.
All right. So what are the big projects you're working on this year?
Some of the big projects right now, this time of year, is a lot of site visits for next year. The projects that we install are, the month of June. July and August tend to be a little warm, but we had some pretty significant restoration projects this summer.
Okay. So when you say install, what is that process?
Right. So it's kind of like starting with a clean slate with a herbicide application, and then erosion control fabric, matting, and regrading the slope to a more even 3-to-1 slope rather than some steeper banks that some people have. And then with very labor-intensive stuff, we plant native seed and native plants.
All right. And I know that, along with your staff, you also have volunteers, and you've had some members of, was it the Green Corps, or people helping you out with that? Yeah.
So the Minnesota Conservation Corps it is Minnesota and Iowa, 18 to 25-year-old adults who basically just want to get some field experience.
Okay, very cool. So when you're talking about shoreline restoration now, especially with, private home ownership, how is that different than, some of the things that people use today? Like I'm thinking of rocks. Lots of people put rocks
in. Yep. And so it's kind of a cultural change as well. For years, it was railroad ties, which we've had to take out because of erosion and things like that. But the idea with the native species is a strong root system. Some of the native plants that we're planting get anywhere from 4 feet to 12 feet deep of root structure. So holding on to the shore provides an alternative to the rock. I've mentioned crucial pollinator habitat, but really it's just kind of a way to beautify a landscape rather than looking at rock all day.
Right. And, some people like rocks, but again, it helps. It's kind of a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talk a little bit about the cost share potential, because I'm imagining that this is somewhat of an expense for people.
Yep. Just like most things in life, it's an investment for sure. But depending on the square footage, it can be definitely cost reductive to enter in with the cost share. So there is pools of money available, grant funding for projects like this. Anywhere is up to 75% cost share. So think of it like a rebate at Menards, but you can use it anywhere. Okay. In that landowners pay the full final cost, but there is a voucher checked for the approved cost share.
So how does somebody go about signing up for the shoreline restoration? I mean, first, I'm sure just contact your office.
Yeah, absolutely. Contact the office here, talk to me, and we can schedule site visits, really just so I can get an idea of what I'm looking at. And pictures are a huge thing because we can get up, in northern part of the county and get all the way back and try to remember what we were looking at. So a lot of pictures, some measurements, some rough numbers, and then entering into a plan for us, usually, like I said, in the spring.
Okay. Yeah. So on the site visits, and then you recommend what you can do, and you kind of go back and forth with the homeowner.
Right. Yeah. And if it's not something with us, there is ways for landowners to do it on their own, keeping it as natural as possible, planting native plants, adding trees to their shoreline.
All right. Logan Rydell is with Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. He's a resource technician working with the shoreline restoration. And lots going on.
yeah, a lot of potential. We are in Lakes Country, so we're all over the place all the time.
Now, were you the one giving the tour to city and county leaders recently?
Yeah, so we had the Becker County Cola tour, and we also had Boats, Bars, and Buffers, which was a little outreach event thanks to J&K for the donation of the pontoons. But we were able to take out a few individuals and just kind of toot our own horn, show off some of the things that we're doing and some of the ways that we can help other landowners. So.
Yeah, that's great, because a lot of people don't see your work because it's usually on the lake side.
Right. Yep. But how often do you see people putzing around a lake on a nice night just looking at the neighbor's yard, So we have a lot of signs, and we're trying to do as much outreach as possible.
Right. So, so get in contact with Logan and the folks at Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. If you would like to check into shoreline restoration, now is a good time to do that. And if you want to see the fruits of their labor right out in front, go to that scenic overlook on Detroit Lake. That is beautiful. It's just like, I run by that, and it smells so good too.
It's a neat time of year. Things change throughout the summer too. So in the spring, you'll see different colors than you are today. So
that's exactly what you wanted it to be.
Exactly.
All right, Logan Rydell and Marcia Watland in the studio with us this morning. She is the Becker County Ag Inspector. We're going to take a break and be back with Marcia after this.
Now, back to Hodge Podge with Carol McCarthy on KDLM Detroit Lakes.
Welcome back to Hodge Podge this August 22nd, Thursday morning. Back in the studio with Marcia Watland from Becker County Ag Inspector. Good morning, Marcia.
Good morning, Carol. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Let's talk a little bit about, you're going to share some information about noxious weeds and fall control and also spring treatment. So first off, let's talk a little bit about some of the weeds of concern from this summer.
Okay, what we talked about the last time I was in was dealing with wild parsnip, tansy, meadow knapweed, also leafy spurge. So there's been a lot of control on that this summer. But one of the things that's interesting going into the fall is this is going to be an excellent time for treating your noxious weeds, whether it be in your lawn or out in the road and field area.
Okay. All right. So again, can you remind us, what's the best time of treating the weeds? Time of day? Is there a best time of day, or can you do it all day? Or
well, you could do it all day, but pollinators has been a huge topic over the years, and it has always been a concern. And so with management of weeds, if you can get out earlier in the day before the pollinators start moving, and we're not just talking honeybees, we're talking every type of animal, but every type of insect that does the pollinating, whether it be moths, bees, and other insects. So earlier in the day is a great time to do your treatment.
All right. Marcia Watland is the Becker County Ag Inspector in the studio with me this morning, and talking about some of the things that she's working on, and spreading some more information on how to control weeds in this next season as we enter into the next season and prepare for, we'll just say we're entering into the fall season. I'm not going to talk about what comes after that. Some of the weeds of concern.
Okay, some of the other weeds of concern now, it's called common tansy. It was in the horticulture industry till 2010, and then it was added onto the Minnesota noxious weeds. So it's very attractive right now, little gold balls. Those are the plants that if you have not treated already, this is the time to go ahead and cut it, and you can do a spring treatment. It would be like a Canada thistle on steroids, the way it expands. And so fall time is a great time where one plant will spread out 10 feet. It looks pretty, that one plant, and then in a few years, that's all you have. So that is one of the ones that I'm looking at now. I'll be doing my fall inspection for treatment, so that's where we're not done with taking care of our noxious weeds. Another item is your spotted knapweed. A lot of that's gone to seed. We have pollinators, but it's a really good time after the first frost to do a treatment of these plants. So and the other one is leafy spurge. That one has a milky sap. And always remember, wear your gloves when you're dealing with this, and do not expose your skin to it. Fall is another good time. It used to be spring. That's when we thought we had to treat that. The seed heads will explode 20 feet. So that's why we want to make sure if you haven't cut off the seed heads, and then you can go ahead and treat any of the foliage or plant material coming up in September.
Okay. And how often is it that animals are spreading these noxious weeds?
Oh, that's pretty good. Some of them, whether it be eating, it would be like buckthorn. That's been a real common one, and that's a great one for treating starting in September through January. But the birds eat that, and it's a diuretic, so you'll find it by fences. You'll find it under trees. That's why it's pretty prolific. And some of the other ones, whether it be wild parsnip, not so much the common tansy. That's pretty much wind distributed, spotted knapweed, some birds. But those are the ones that between animals and also recreation vehicles, pickups. I know I have to check my vehicle when I leave an area that I've inspected, so I don't bring it back to our class 5 at home and I say, I get to treat it in my yard. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things that you need to look at.
All right. So good information to know. And are there any of these plants that you've heard of that affect, like if animals eat them, that they're poisonous to animals? Or, I mean, do you ever come across that sort of?
Yes. Used to, and I'm glad you brought that up. With the wild parsnip, that has been a real issue. With the sap hitting your skin and a 3rd-degree burn, it happens in livestock too. If you compare a black Angus with a Hereford, the Hereford, if it ingested in the hay even, especially if it's cut in the green form, then all the white parts of the Hereford will get the blistering, and muzzles on horses and even, on some of the other animals, you'll notice the blistering that it will cause there.
Okay. All right. Marcia Mawatlan with Becker County Ag Inspector, Becker County Ag Inspector, in the studio with me this morning, talking about some of the weeds of concern and how she is working to help eradicate some of these weeds. And eradication, is it more of a management kind of thing right now? I mean, can we totally eradicate these?
Well, with the Minnesota Noxious Weed List, there is the eradicate and control. We have one eradicate weed, and it's called meadow knapweed right now. I'm looking at poison hemlock possibly. But that one, yes, and that's where the grant funding comes in. I've written several grants, and we have cost share available for residents in Becker County to deal with that, and then also dealing with recreation trails and some of the other areas as I work with different townships and landowners. So meadow knapweed is what we call eradicate, where we're getting rid of it. And then the others are control, so it's a management practice. So landowners, when I work with them, let them know the practice that they could use. And it's usually a multi-year process. Mm-hmm. And not to get frustrated. It just, I'll give you the timing so you don't waste herbicide and putting that in on the soil and plants.
All right. Well, and Marcia, I know that Becker County is going through a master trail planning right now, and you had talked about you inspect trails too.
Right.
So when do you get out and do that? I mean...
Well, I usually divide Becker County into 4 regions, and when I go out in that area, that's when I'll do the weed complaints that come in. I will do gravel pit inspection, and then I do the recreation trails. And so I work with the cooperative weed management partners, and if I need to, I meet with them out at the site. So, for example, Dan McLaughlin, who is our natural resource person at Becker County. We've been working on a trail system up in Round Lake area going into forest. The DNR has been working on 2 inlets area and moving into Smoky Hills, where I will be going because of meadow knapweed, the eradicate. Mm-hmm. So we've done treatment, and I believe we have completed 25 miles. I'll double check that, but I'll be doing that this fall. That's what I do in September and October.
Okay. All right. So you got your work cut out for you.
Yeah. That's why we have a team. We work together on this. So, yeah.
Well, it's good to know kind of the behind the scenes, how these people that are in the studio with us this morning, Marcia and Logan, work to make this area beautiful and get rid of the nasty stuff.
Yes. And so if you have any questions for Logan or I, our phone number is 218-846-7360. And we do return phone calls, not that we're in the office, but that's what we usually do the first part of the day and at the end. But we will get back to you.
So are you both venturing out today, out in the field? Yep.
Yes.
It's going to be a gorgeous day for that, I'll tell you that.
We're ready for that. That's
Okay.
for sure.
Well, I appreciate both of you coming in, Marcia Watland and Logan Rydell from Becker Soil and Water Conservation District. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And that is going to wrap up Hodge Podge for this Thursday. I'm Carol McCarthy, KDLM.